Welcome to the BobbleOn podcast,
where we're committed to providing practical advice and strategies to increase your revenue, unify your team, and create accountability throughout your organization.
Let's go. I like that. Maybe I'll go cauliflower crust. I've never tried it.
I think they sell it at Whole Foods and Trader Joe's.
Okay.
But it worked, and it was tasty. Caramelized onions helped. Banana peppers, that's what they were. Banana peppers helped. But the cheese was the key. The mozzarella, like watching the cheese just string slowly out of your mouth and stay attached to the pizza, that did it for me.
If this ever doesn't work, I think you got a food model.
Kind of like George Costanza's hand model?
Yes. Yeah, he was good at that. He was real good at that. Well, happy BobbleOn podcast day.
Happy BobbleOn podcast, Zoom style virtual remote session.
I love it. I love it. What are we talking about today?
So we decided that it would be helpful if we went back a little bit to the tactical, like specific things that we're doing right now, that whether you are a real estate agent, loan officer, insurance agent, financial planner, you could take from and use right away and get value and benefit in your business. And so came up 3 things that we've pivoted on, doubled down on in the recent weeks that we expect to pay huge dividends in the near future.
I like that. Like today we're talking about the pivot, right? And to you and I, you know, we're not like savvy investors here with the markets, but you know that in a down market or in a recession or when there's a pullback or whatever, the people who win long term are the people who stay in the market. The people who might just strike rich just like luckily are the people who go in and out and try to time it perfectly. So that relates to everybody listening today because we got to stay in the game. We have to stay in the game of business, but we have to pivot a little bit and check our strategies. That way when the market turns, we're ready to fly with it. You can't just do what you've always done in a recession. It won't work.
Amen. Amen.
So
we also expect that we also expect, right, that home sales are going to take a major dip in a couple months. There's just no other way around it. It's going to happen. So being in a business that requires new homes being purchased to get that business kind of puts you in a bind, a little bit of a pickle. So we've these pivot moves that we've made will hopefully hedge against that and double down on what works.
I do like pickles, though.
I love pickles. Do you have a preference on a pickle?
Grillo.
Oh, yeah.
Grillo pickles, that has been a relative staple in the Gould household during COVID-19 life because I find myself snacking on carbs and I typically don't grab a veggie. So, you know, I need something. So I typically have a couple pickles. I like those.
Grillos are delicious. Do you get the spicy ones or just the normal?
We're an equal opportunity Grillo employer. We do Italian dill and we also do the spicy. The spicy though, you can't have too many. Like they're pretty.
I know. You learn that the hard way the next morning.
They're intense. They're intense. Well, I'll kick us off with best moment of the last week for me. For me, what's really working lately is, you know, we bought a second property in Westport and really just taking advantage of that. So we actually just went down on Easter and we just went down and like had a couple hours down there, let the kids run around. You know, we bought a property where like it's just, there will be new neighbors, but they're gonna have to build their house too. So oddly enough, they were there too. And we got to actually meet our neighbors and it was just cool. It turns out our neighbors are actually from Hopkinton, which is like one town over. So what are the odds?
Awesome.
But just a good day on Easter, starting a kind of a newer tradition. And Kristen and I can kind of see how that kind of comes around because we didn't want to just sit at home on Easter. So we took advantage of it.
That's cool. Well, especially at a time when most people are hunkered down and you're probably in the house nonstop every day. So getting an excuse to leave and go to another house or go to another place where you can spend some time outside must have been nice.
Have to. What was your best?
Mine was dinner related, not pizza night, but the night before I made a chicken Marsala dish. which turned out really, really well. But that wasn't my highlight. My highlight was consuming it and then just sitting with a glass of wine with Sadie. And the reason was, it was like, it was raining outside. The window was open a little bit, raining outside. We were watching something on TV. Didn't matter what it was. I think it was Jeopardy or Wheel of Fortune. It's the only two things we watched for that 45-minute section we have. Had a glass of wine, eating like a home-cooked meal for the first time in a little while. And it just was like a really good moment where we both felt like very grateful and sort of present. And I felt like I hadn't been in that mindset in such a long time. So it stood out as an important moment to sort of remember and capture. It was nice.
I like Marsala, the chicken Marsala. It's underrated. Got a bad chicken Marsala story though. I went to I remember KG and I were early on together, and when I went out with her, I was like, I'll have a chicken piccata. And I was just talking about how much I love chicken piccata and I was excited for it or whatever. And it came with like all those capers and all that crap. And I thought it was chicken Marsala. I thought that's what I was supposed to get. So I got chicken piccata, which I personally do not like. And I thought I was getting chicken Marsala. And I think they're polar opposites. Chicken piccata is like tangy, like...
Oh yeah. Like are those like capers or something?
Yeah, they're just like intense. Whereas chicken Marsala feels like you want to sit back with a glass of wine.
Exactly.
Chicken piccata, no. Yeah. Chicken piccata, like I want to have with like a glass of tequila or something. It's not the same. But I like that. I've never heard of you making chicken Marsala. Was it the first go?
First go. I decided that I was going to make 3 dishes this week over the last weekend, and I pulled up Food Network's top 50 recipes, and I picked the 3 first ones I found that I liked, and it was chicken Marsala, it was cauliflower crusted pizza, obviously, and it was chicken thighs in a mustard sauce, which looked pretty diesel. So I'm making that tonight. I'll let you know tomorrow how I feel and how it turned out.
I love it. All right, well, let's talk about this pivot. This is an interesting point because it's never too late. It's never too late, but it should be thought out. So in my eyes, what's an unsuccessful pivot is starting to sell something totally different. And what I mean by that is, like, you brought up new home sales, and we all agree, if you're listening on this phone call, especially if you're in the Boston market, we will see a dip. The numbers are already showing that less people are searching for homes on Zillow, less people are out at open houses. That will correlate to a dip in somehow, some way. So if we just decided we wanted to go after trucking insurance, like truckers, that would be way too aggressive of a pivot in my eyes because we've never done it before. Probably not a good idea.
A huge learning curve, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we just have to learn so much in such a short period of time. We wouldn't be successful no matter how good our marketing would be.
And we don't even really know if that's a good market to be in right now.
I think it's the worst.
Are people even trucking?
I don't think so. I think people are taking their trucks off of insurance policies to save on premium. I think it's one of the, after event planning businesses or event businesses, I think it's the second worst.
Yeah, so point being, like, you can't make a pivot that's drastic unless if it's thought out, good for you, go for it. But we're talking about how do you make a pivot while staying relatively tight to your niche, and not leaving the real estate industry. We're not at all. In fact, you're going to hear when we go through our pivots that most of them do focus still on the real estate industry. It's just we're not going to be sitting around waiting for new home sales. We're going to be there when it turns, but we're just not sitting around waiting.
Yeah, doubling down on communication in a lot of different ways that we'll go over. But the other thing to keep in mind is that this wasn't a decision that independently you and I made overnight. And then the next day we said, hey guys, this is what we're doing. This was something that 4 or 5, 6 weeks ago, when we realized that the environment was changing, we brought these issues to our team, our full team, and said, hey, let's talk about what we can do. What are some things, there's some brush fires that we've had on the list for a while that we just been kicking the can because it hasn't been super important that we should address now? And what are some things that we're just not being an A+ in right now that we can look at and say, hey, we have the time and the capacity and it's more appropriate to focus on this stuff than to do what we normally do. And I think we created a plan, and that plan has taken 4 weeks to sort of marinate and then implement so that we get the best return on it.
Well, let's talk about I would say the biggest pivot first, and the one that, because the other two we're going to be talking about do relate to the real estate industry. But let's show like one example of one that we don't relate. Let's talk a little bit about associations that you've been really working on.
Yeah, so I mean, to be specific, we are trying to remain in the real estate market, but determine either a professional association or associations and or employer groups, i.e. real estate firms, mortgage firms, attorney firms, et cetera, and work with our insurance companies to get a state-approved insurance discount for all of those members of the association and or employees of the employer group. And it's a process. You have to go to the insurance companies, figure out which ones will allow for that discount. You have to then go to these employer groups as well as the professional associations and say, hey, here's an opportunity to extend a voluntary benefit to all the people that make up your group or your company. And then you have to combine the two and say, hey, insurance company, we have this prospect, this group that's excited about it. Will you underwrite it? Will you approve it? And then they have to approve it. But we're staying in the real estate space. And we're looking for opportunity to create value for those that are in that world by offering them discounts they wouldn't be eligible otherwise if it wasn't for our efforts.
So you're making like a real estate team to come in with insurance to these associations. And that's why this is going to work. What's not going to work is what you and I used to do way back in the day at Liberty Mutual, where it's like you wear your best Men's Warehouse suit and you go sit in a lunchroom at an employer group and you really hope that people walk by, because no one's going to lunchrooms right now. Those places don't exist. It's not going to work.
Yeah, and plus, I mean, if it's outside of your space, you don't have any experience, you don't have any relatability. And I remember back in the day trying to create these group discounts with employer groups that were random. The Jewish Family and Children's Services firm in Newton, I think I got that approved after 6 months of grueling effort. Finally got on site in that oversized Men's Warehouse tan suit, which, as a redhead and pale, you should not be wearing tan. No one told me. And I sat there, and I think after like 6 months went by, I think I sold 3 renter's insurance policies and an auto policy. Like it wasn't successful, partly because you weren't there.
And that was back in the day when you really couldn't bring your phone or laptop and be incredibly productive when you weren't at the office. So it's kind of like it wouldn't work too well. You had like that plug-in and like it would kind of work sometimes, and people weren't used to you like logging into their VPN or whatever that was. They wouldn't really give you like a password. That wasn't really existing.
No, I think it was mainly notepad, pen, and like asking people for coverage pages as they came by. It was like really weird. So the point was, we aren't trying to get outside of our space and say, you know what? Real estate sales are going to be low, so let's go to, as you put it, trucking companies and try to create discount partnerships. Now, that's thinking outside the box, but it's way too far outside our comfort level and experience. There's no relatability, there's no credibility. So like when we go to a professional association made up of real estate professionals, half of the room we might know, or they might know us. And so there's much more credibility, and it gives us a leg up. So that they're like, hey, let's hear this person out, let's talk about it. And then they realize it's actually value that they can extend. So if you're listening to this and you use it, use this, stay within your niche and create an opportunity to add value where you can without necessarily just looking at what's best for you.
And if you're also listening to this and you work for an employer in Massachusetts that's looking for voluntary benefits, this is something that Matt's doing. It's super easy. There's no cost to you. You get real estate services, you get insurance services discounted just because your employer said, I'd like to provide this benefit. I think now is the time also when employers are looking around saying, how do I add any value to these people? I've just cut their 401k. I've just I've hinted that jobs might be lost. Like, what can I really do? And this is a really simple one that doesn't cost them anything.
It's a great point. Yeah, that's a great point. At a time when people are cutting benefits, you can come in with a really good one.
Yep. And so let's talk. So now let's get back directly to the real estate industry. So you're right. Like, we're talking about this, like homes aren't necessarily flying off the shelves because they're not like staying there, but not a lot of homes are being listed right now because open houses are difficult. It's hard to imagine like people coming in your house and, I don't know, but it could pivot quickly. So we have to be ready for that. So one thing that we are doing, and we've talked about this before, is making sure that our current clients at G&N meet and engage with referral partners that can help them with their existing home, or if they really don't like the home they're in during COVID, how to get out of that home and into a new home. And so we're really kind of communicating with them to try to introduce them to referral partners, a mortgage lender to reduce the rate. There are a lot of mortgage companies out there that have hinted that jumbos are not their thing right now, so we have partners that can help them. There are real estate services that need to be provided because people don't like where they're sitting right now, and they're saying to myself, by summer, I gotta get out of here. I gotta figure this out. And we're just communicating with our clients, letting them know that we can introduce them.
And I think that's the huge difference. And what you've implemented with a bi-weekly newsletter, first off, the frequency is much more than most agencies or entities would recommend or do, but only because they don't necessarily believe that the value they're offering is significant enough. I think that we know that we're not just sending out newsletters. You're not sending out a newsletter and saying, hey, here's a tip about umbrella insurance, or why you should increase your limits of your liability on your car policy, or how to add a nanny to your workers' comp policy. Like, that's not topical. It's not important to people right now. It's not valuable. What you're doing is you're letting people know at this moment, take control. Here's a couple of ways for you to take control and reduce your costs, because that's on everyone's mind, and that's how we can help. And that's why you're getting such great responses and so many people reaching out saying, yes, please introduce me.
You're so right. I think that companies right now, and we hinted at this last time, are really missing the point because they're not really putting themselves in the client's shoes. I'm getting emails all the time and I'm reading them, and I think a company that's doing well is a company like The Gap. And as just for instance, like we buy Gap, Gap underwear from Mason or whatever it might be, but I'm on their list somehow, some way. And they're literally, the subject line is everything is 60% off. Now, if I need it, I'm gonna click that if I need to. It's simple. It's not just saying like, we're here to help you in a desperate time. Like, we know you don't have money, so here. They make it really, really simple why they're emailing you. The companies that are losing are the companies that are just saying like, by the way, we're still open.
We're here for you.
Yeah, we're here for you. And so what we're really trying to do, like you said, is communicate with our clients that we're not going to be reaching out to them saying now is a great time to purchase insurance, because we don't really need our current clients to purchase more insurance. We talk to them all the time about that anyways. There are so many renewal strategies you've implemented. We don't need a newsletter to remind them to purchase insurance again and again and again. We need a newsletter.
That's not really an effective newsletter strategy anyways, yeah.
Super self-serving.
If you think someone's underinsured or they need another policy, pick up the phone and call them and let them know. A newsletter should be something that's passively valuable. So like, if I look at it and I'm like, I do need a sweater for my son. It's 60% off. It's a great time. I've been meaning to do that. It's on my to-do list. I'll click it. Hey, it looks like G&N can introduce me to a loan officer to save on my $300 a year or $300 a month on refinancing my mortgage. I've been meaning to do that. I haven't refinanced my mortgage in years, and I hear it in the news and media all the time how important it is to do it because rates have never been this low. Who better than my agent to recommend?
Amen. And we're gonna be doing that for more services too. I mean, we're thinking about it in our head, like, how can we introduce our financial planners? You have to be really careful with that one because people have lost their jobs. It might not be a good time to say whatever, but it's actually a really important time to roll over your 401k if you've lost your job. We could actually really be providing a service that people need. They can't just leave that 401k with their company. They have to have access to those funds. So there's things that we're rummaging through, but we're all, like you said, we're always thinking about how do we serve our clients without necessarily coming off like we need them to purchase more insurance policies. That's what we're trying to do. All right, so we have a lot of referral partners that are still doing business, and they're a lot of business. The 80-20 rule is absolutely, the 80-20 principle is absolutely in effect. The top of the top are crushing it right now. How are we supporting those people? What are we trying to do here? What's a third pivot?
We are always going to try to recommend and connect good people with people who are professionals, are experts, are best in their business. So that's always on our mind. But we thought a couple weeks ago, we're like, hey, these Zoom calls are working. We're like having Zoom calls with each other. We're having Zoom calls on our podcast. We're having Zoom calls with our team. We're having Zoom calls with partners that reach out, with clients, with key relationships. Everyone, it's working. We need to start having more Zoom calls with our best of the best partnerships. But what do we talk about and how do we go about that? Because no one wants to just jump on a call with us for no other reason than just to connect, unless it's our mothers. And even that might be a challenge. So our strategy is, let's get on, and you can elaborate on this, but let's get face-to-face with our best partners and ask them how we can help, and let them know, here are strategies we've implemented. Will it be helpful for you? How can we tweak this to be better at it? These are ways and ideas we're having to help you. Not unlike when you're creating a new relationship, leading with give is our main mission here.
Yeah, you brought a lot of good points there. And one of the things that I think about is we want to, with our best referral partners, act like a marketing agency for them if we can. And we have the capacity to do it. And also when you get 3 or 4 people on a Zoom call and you're talking about like, hey, things are already working, what can we be doing? What do you not have time to do right now? I know it's a question you've asked a zillion times before. What is something that you want to get done, you can't get done? And a lot of our partners right now are saying content creation. I just don't have enough time in the day to really communicate with my clients on what we're doing and how we're doing it. I'm not sure how to get that message out. Well, we can help. And Zoom calls are a really simple way for us to get that done. We can interview them, chop it up, create advertisements, and make sure that they can tell their story with their own words.
Because we can record it.
Yeah. Yeah. In the cloud. It's working.
It's a great point. I mean, us being able to get on a Zoom call, asking them specific questions about, who they're serving, how they're serving, what makes them special, what are they working on now that kind of better prepare themselves for Q3, et cetera. Those are all really valuable pieces of information that most of the public wants to know, or at least is like thinking about themselves. Because if they were planning on listing their house in May or in April, and they've pulled out, well, they're questioning a lot of things. Like, should I even list this year? Should I even move forward with trying to buy a property? Should I get my pre-approval readjusted? All these questions are through a lot of consumers and potential home buyers and listers' minds. And if we can capture this content from the specialists, package it because we're recording it and splicing it, and then give it back to them, gold.
Yeah, and you're so right. I think that when you're in your own world, sometimes you don't realize what the problem is of the client you're serving. Sometimes you miss it. And what we're seeing a lot is people are reaching out to their mortgage lenders that they worked with a couple years back, and the mortgage lender is just too busy right now to even help them. Or maybe their bank isn't doing refinances and stuff like that. The mortgage lenders need to create content that are saying like, we're here and I can do it. And we have a team to help. Or I'm really focusing on new purchases. I want to tell my realtors that I'm free to work on new purchases. They have to get that message out there. And we're really committed to trying to be the marketing agency for a lot of our best partners. And we're setting up Zoom calls to get it done. And these are ways we've pivoted. If you look back through these, it's like we're doing association marketing to really support like our efforts to provide discounts and provide opportunities for employer groups, bring in real estate partners to help their services. We're doing some newsletters to our clients to really introduce them to our best referral partners and help them save while staying in their house or plan to buy a new house down the road. And the third thing, like you said, is we're really working with our partners to really help them get their name out there. Big pivot.
Big pivot, doubling down on effort, doubling down on communication, and double down on value creation outside of insurance. We believe, and we have permission to be wrong, but we believe that that's going to help pay huge dividends in Q3 and Q4. Hey, before we close out, one thing came into my mind. A couple conversations the last week or two with both real estate agents that are 1099, kind of own their own operation, as well as small businesses, a couple small operations that we insure, and friends and family that own smaller businesses of different natures. They've shared that they've reached out to their bank, and they're either not accepting any more applications for the PPP loans, or they have, but they only are accepting it from their own clients. So like if you call Bank of America and you're not a Bank of America client, they won't accept it.
Well, I know of two banks that are accepting both existing and new clients and offering loans to those. So if you're listening to this, you're a small business owner, you're an insurance agency, you're anyone who owns their own operation, and you can't get your existing bank or a new bank to offer you that loan, reach out to us, DM me, and I'm happy to put you in touch with those banks that we know that are taking on that opportunity.
It's a monster. I didn't know you were so giving. No, that's huge value. Huge value. I hope people do take advantage of that. Well, big pivot here, guys. And like Matt said, permission to be wrong, but don't want to stand still right now. You have the careful balance. You don't want to try 17,000 ideas right now. You want to have a calculated pivot while staying in your market. And we're doing it. We're excited about it. Today is April 15th. I'm excited to see what July 15th looks like with this pivot.
Normally, this is the worst day of the year because it's tax day.
Tax
But
day.
That has been pushed back a few months. And so it's a great day of the year. That's
Now
why
it's
it's
just
sunny and that's
Wednesday.
why we're in such good moods.
It's just Wednesday. BobbleOn!
BobbleOn.